Now let's go, okay, so this is a big difference between the Martini version and the OpenStax version. So in the OpenStax version, this is actually jumping all the way to chapter 16. So this is a very big difference between Martini and OpenStax. OpenStax kind of separates the nervous system anatomy from the physiology and the effects. But I'm going to teach it more in an integrated way. During the spinal cord, I'm going to give you both the anatomy and physiology. I'll cover the anatomy first, but I'm going to tell you more about how these, or the function of these structures. So what are somatosensation tests, and why did I spend so much time covering dermatomes? Well, there are certain tests you can use using these maps to kind of determine whether some sort of nerve damage occurred, or just test the overall health of the nerves and sensations of a person. So remember how I said all of the spinal nerves except for C1, which is mostly motor neurons, they're mixed nerves, meaning that they both carry sensations, they both detect sensations, and they can carry out motor commands. Now, this is a great thing. With these somatosensation tests, you can actually test whether these nerves are healthy or damaged by testing whether they are able to actually carry sensations to the appropriate spinal nerve. Now, say someone had like a neck injury, and you want to see if these C2, C1, C2, C3, C4, C5, if these are intact. So one way to test whether a region is healthy is to do tests along regions that supply signals to that area and see whether it's actually picking up correctly, or sometimes at all if there's really severe damage. So this is why dermatomes are important, because again, if these are supplying signals to these areas, if you're testing whether somebody's able to feel appropriate sensations along these areas, if these sensations are inappropriate, like say you're touching someone with a cotton ball and they feel it's hot, or if they feel it's like you're putting a needle into them, that's something incorrect, or it could be no sensation at all. Okay, let's look at our friend here and say he's in the kitchen and then he's fooling around, or one of his family members is fooling around, and the knife goes wild and then it cuts him right here. Like, oh no, so he goes to the ER and then everything heals up. But how do we know if any nerves got damaged over there? All right, so we saw that it went across this area right here, right? So let's check along the dermatomes to see if there any nerve damage occurred. So the thing is that with this nerve damage, what we can see is like, okay, well, we have all these sensory nerves along this region, along this dermatome. And then we have these other dermatomes as well. But let's concentrate on the T1 dermatome for now. Now here we have all these sensory nerves that carry signal toward the T1 spinal nerve. Now you also have another pair on the other side. So remember that injury happened on his right arm. So what we're having here is a cotton ball, and we're going to say, hey, can you feel this? Well, if he was healthy and all these nerves were intact, then this would cause a sensation going up to the T1 spinal nerve, up into the spinal cord, up toward the brain, and his brain would interpret the signal, and you say, hey, I feel something light and tickling me here on my right forearm. So we say, okay, it seems like his sensation is intact along that dermatome. And then we would also test the other dermatomes that might be affected to see whether any nerves got severed or damaged along the way. Or say you touch that cotton ball there, and he feels like you've just put a really hot poker or an ice cube, or if you felt like you were like stabbing him with a knife again, then that might indicate that there is some nerve damage. Maybe not complete obliteration, but that might be something inappropriate. But say nerve damage did occur over here. So like during that wayward knife, it somehow severed the nerve, and the axons didn't grow back, and then the nerves are completely severed. There's no communication with these nerves down here. Now, if we repeated that test, he had nerve damage. Well, if there aren't any nerves, or say there are nerves, but they're not connected to the nerves that lead and supply to the T1 spinal nerve, well, those signals aren't going to get there. So he's not going to feel it, even though the cotton ball is there in the same place as it was in the previous example when he was healthy. Now we have him thinking like, I don't feel anything. So how can you double check? Well, one way you can double check is that, remember, you have a pair of spinal nerves. So another way you can make sure that it isn't like a false negative in this case, what we have here is that you repeat the same test, but on the mirror side, you do it on the opposite side. So now we're on the left side along the same T1 dermatome. So this side is healthy, it wasn't injured, so we would expect to see that the sensations go up toward the T1 spinal nerve and then up along the spinal cord toward the brain, and he'll be able to feel it. So again, we're having it touch the same dermatome, but due to the nerve damage over here, he can't feel it, even though it's in the same mirror opposite region in the either side.